Everyone, welcome to the October 14th, 2025 meeting of the Salina Public Schools Board of Education. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On to item 3, approval of our agenda. There is one change to the agenda that needs to be made. We need to add a discussion agenda item 8B for the KASB Delegate Assembly, and it does appear on your printed agenda at your seat. Is there a motion? Yes.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Second, Bonnie seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Now recognitions and presentations with Livia Opat and You Make a Difference Awards.
Good evening. Tonight we just have 5 You Make a Difference awards to recognize. Staff members are nominated by colleagues to receive a You Make a Difference award for their support of students in the mission of Salina Public Schools. Board of Education members surprise the recipients during their workday with a lapel pin and a handwritten note. Congratulations to the following staff who were recognized for making a difference: Shelby Davis, math coach at Sunset Elementary; Nevada Hollis, custodian at Lakewood Middle; Connie Summerfeld, ISS supervisor at Central High; Alicia Pierce, nurse at South High; and Jeremiah Thornton, MTSS certified student support at South High. We're grateful for the dedication and the impact that these staff members make every day for our students, families, and staff. To learn more about them, visit the awards section on our district website. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia, and congratulations to those outstanding staff members. On to approval of the consent agenda, item 5, and those items this evening are minutes of the September 9th, 2025 regular meeting, minutes of the September 9th, 2025 special meeting, the personnel report, the financial reports, including the September's bills list, August treasurer's report, August investment report, and August journal entries. Approval of the following encumbrance listings. First, to BSN Sports in the amount of $30,998.92 for the installation of a pole vault pit at the South High Field. To Fisher Tracks in the amount of $30,486 for the all-weather structural spray for the new concrete runways at the South High track. To Heartland Seating for new bleachers and a press box at the South High Fields in the amount of $478,806. To Ray Roofing for the purchase and installation of guttering, downspouts, and other materials for the Hegeman Education Center. This project was approved last month. However, the actual cost is $56,000, not $30,000 as previously approved. To Veritiv in the amount of $40,000 for the renewal of the uninterrupted power supplies for the Operations Center, South High School, and Central High School. And approval of the Schilling Elementary request to apply for a grant through the Greater Salina Community Foundation in the amount of $5,455. Is there a motion to approve those items?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Thanks. In a second. Paul seconds. Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I would like a little bit more discussion of the Ray Roofing missed bid, it's mistaken bid, and I don't know if we could just do it now or if we need to take it off the encumbrance listings. I think we could just leave it on. I just want a little more explanation of how we got $26,000 off on a $30,000 bid.
Mr. Manchin, would you prepare?
So, yeah, I'd be glad to. Thank you. So, when I requested the amount, and it was not a bid, it was through TIPS Purchasing Cooperative, when I requested that amount from Ray Roofing, the amount that he gave me originally was the estimate on linear foot replacement for the boards. And so there was just miscommunication. Usually those quotes that he gives me have a bolded number there, and they did not. So it was just miscommunication back and forth between the two of us. So I assumed that the whole bid was $30,000, and it was not. So when we sent the purchase order to him, he corrected me, and so we needed to reissue the correct amount.
Thank you.
There is a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Next on our agenda, item 6, public forum, and there were no requests to speak this evening, so we'll move to our action agenda, and item 7A, receipt of the fiscal year 2025 audit from Agler and Gaddert, and Harold Mays is here to present.
Okay. Good evening. And if you can turn to past the table of contents, the independent auditor's report. In that report, based upon the fact that it's a matter of public record and the fact that you've opted out of generally accepted accounting principles and into the Kansas Municipal Accounting and Auditing Guide, we have to say first, it's not in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, but it is in accordance with the Kansas Municipal Audit Guide, and therefore we've given a cleaner and qualified opinion in terms of that statutory basis financial statements. Management's responsibility is to make sure that you've given us the information in order to present the financial statements in accordance with that guide. Our responsibility is to exercise professional judgment while doing and maintaining skepticism during the audit, identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of financial statements, obtain an understanding of the internal control, evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting principles used, and conclude in our judgment that there's no issues with the going concern. On that page, down under other matters, we have supplemental information. There's quite a bit of information that occurs in the back of the footnotes, or behind the footnotes, where it shows more of the detail for each fund, and up front it just kind of shows a summary. You also have to have an audit performed in accordance with governmental auditing standards due to the amount of federal funding you received. That's what that paragraph is talking about, is that there's another opinion at the back. And then on the last page of the report, it talks about prior year comparative, and we show in the back a comparison to budget and also to the prior year. And that prior year was performed by us, and the financial statements we feel are fairly presented for that prior year information. If you turn to page 4 and 5, you get to see the summary of all the funds. And if you look down on page 5, in the first column, you started the year with $48,835,000. You ended the year with $49,527,000. What created that difference, because it's up about $691,000 from the year before, is that the special or supplemental general is up about $89,000. Professional development was up $163,000. Special ed was up $547,000. Textbook was up $525,000. And federal grants, which, tongue in cheek, is up $1,996,000. If you look on page 4, it shows federal grants were $2,178,000 negative the year before. This is the federal government's way of funding you, but they fund you after the fact. You got to do all the work, and then they get you the money. So in essence, what happened is they finally paid a lot of that money back to you. So at the end of the year, you were only $182,000 down that they still owed you. So it's a change of $1,009,000, but it's kind of an interesting change. Bond interest is also up $341,000. So the funds that kind of offset that was special ed co-op. It was down $2,001,000. Health insurance was down $713,000, and the capital outlay was down about $86,000. Special ed co-op basically is just expenses over revenues. It's gone down quite a bit the last couple of years, similar from the year before. Capital outlay was just basically due to facility cost, repairs and stuff that you were doing on the various buildings. If you turn past that, you get to the footnotes. Then on the footnotes, just quickly, page 8, one of the things that we have to do from a statutory basis is make sure that you're adequately secured on your investments and cash that you have in bank, and you were at the end of the year. That's what that footnote is telling you. Page 10 and 11, you get to see your debt for the year. You went from $83 million at the beginning of the year to a decrease of $9,200,000 to $74,235. And it shows the years down below that in which the payments are due on those out to paying off the $74 million in bonds that you have. On page 13 and 14, I just bring this up each year because if you read through this, you're going to say, what the heck is this number? And it's basically capers. And in capers, the state allocates what they think is your share of their deficit that they have in those funds, and that's shown on page 14. And at the end of June 30th, 2025, which actually is a roll forward from almost December of 2023, was $87,202,199. That'll never come due all at once. So that's the reason it's not presented as a liability in the report. It's due over time, and it's quite a bit of calculation that goes into that because they have to take everyone that's in the plan, assume they're going to stay this long, assume that they're going to retire at the right age, assume that they're going to live to the right age, and then allocating that present value back to the current year. So there's quite a bit of calculation that goes into that. On page 16, one of the things we also look for is to make sure that you're not over budget in any of the particular funds, and that's what this summary page does, is it shows you that all the funds were either at zero in terms of expenditures compared to budget, and or there was budget room still left in those. After that, page 17 is your general fund. And as you can see, you're up 59 million in revenues compared to 56 million the year before. But your expenses were also up, so instructional, student support staff, or support services and instructional support staff are one of the main reasons those expenditures are up. And as you always try to do, you try to make sure the general fund comes to zero anyway. And I think after that, we can go back to page, I think, 46. Excuse me for the sniffles there. Page 46 and 47 is your schedule of expenditures federal awards. You're required to have an audit for statutory basis, but you're also required to have an audit because of the amount of federal funding that you receive. And during the year, you spent $18,021,234 in federal funds. So part of our testing is involved in looking at the financial picture, but there's a lot of testing that also goes on in terms of making sure that you're in compliance with those federal grants that we look at in detail. So that's what that is telling you, and because of that, we have two more opinions we have to give you. On page 50, we start off by telling you what our opinion is on governmental auditing standards, and in that opinion, we found no deficiencies or material weaknesses that need to be disclosed in the financial statements. We can't say 100% that we never found anything because we don't look at everything. We look at pieces and parts and here and there. But based upon what we found, all our tests were good, and therefore the statement is that we feel that you are in compliance and do have a good system of internal control. Page 52, we go from looking at the financial statements as a whole to looking at specific grants. And this is compliance with those grants that we looked at. And we feel that you do have a good system on internal control and that you were in compliance with the requirements of those grants. So again, a good, clean, unqualified opinion as far as the receiving and the disbursement of those funds under the federal programs. Page 55 gives you kind of a summary overall. This is also done electronically to the federal government to show them basically the same thing. It shows them all the grants. It shows them the grants that we pulled out and did a lot more testing on. And this year that was the Head Start and the finish up of ESSER 3 and then the special education grants. So those are the ones that we looked at in detail. So we have in detail, we've looked at 11 million That doesn't mean we excuse the other ones, because their pieces and parts are pulled out of those too as we're looking at everything else. But these we spent more time on. So a good, clean audit. Congratulations to the school district for being in compliance and in keeping a good set of records.
Any questions for Mr. Mays? None? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is on our action agenda. We just need to approve receipt of the audit. There's a motion there in your packet.
Mr. President, first, Lisa, you and your team, good job. Crystal, thank you.
Crystal.
You guys make it really easy for us to listen to all that and know that we're in good shape, so thank you. I move that we approve the audit of the fiscal year 2025 as presented.
Scott seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here tonight. Next is item 8A on our discussion agenda, and course proposals with Laura Lyons.
Hello. I have 4 course additions for your consideration tonight. The first 2 are career and technical education courses in the early childhood pathway. The first is the application level course. This course is the course that is the culminating course. It allows students to apply their knowledge and work in an internship related to early childhood. The second, Foundations of Early Childhood Development, is a technical level course. That's a mid-level course where they really focus on information about early childhood. And so those 2 courses are related because they would be together in that pathway, along with some other courses that we already offer that are in the pathway. The third course is Theater 2. This course is an addition that would allow students who are already in theater and have taken theater arts to take a second year of theater. And finally, our integrated science course, which is a combination of our current earth science course and some concepts from physical science, so chemistry and physics, hence the name integrated. And this course would essentially replace our earth science course over some time. And so that's why it's a combination of a couple of different contents. What questions could I answer for you about these additions?
Does this is this more likely to prepare students for the tests?
The integrated science course? Absolutely it is. In fact, I just spoke to our high school science departments about that very thing. You might be referencing the grade 11 science results at the state level and that change. I believe that the integrated science course will allow a more general path and more students to achieve more chemistry and physics concepts a little earlier in their science progression. So yes, I would say it would allow us to be better aligned to that sequence and offer concepts in life science, so biology, human anatomy, as well as earth science and physics and chemistry.
Thank you.
When do you expect to see the impact of this change?
I would expect that the students would, if you choose to adopt these courses, that students who would be going into 9th grade next year would have the option to take integrated science as opposed to earth science.
So Scott, just to reiterate, so it may take some time, but you can see it from a couple of different values. One could be enrollment, our number of kids taking this particular course, so you might see just some instant results there, but the impact on assessment, scores, those kinds of things, certainly that may take a while to cycle through.
That assessment is at grade 11.
Quick question, the early childhood application, what year are they allowed to take that?
That course would be for years 11 and 12.
And is it during the school day that they get to go over an intern?
Yes, it would be. One of the things that it would be tied to is achieving a CDA, Child Development certification that is highly sought after by lots of our community partners and businesses. And the internship for this course would not meet the number of hours. It's a pretty hefty number of hours, 480, and our internships are really only about 3 hours a week. So they would be able to begin that process of earning those hours, but they would probably have to find a position to finish the hours in order to complete their portfolio, which they would start in this course as well, and then take that certification exam to achieve their CDA.
But it would give them insight if they wanted to continue, so I think that's awesome.
Absolutely, most certainly. In fact, this changes very much. I did just some quick calculations. We have about 370 students who are interacting in this pathway right now at our high schools. I fully expect that with an additional option that is specific to early childhood, that we will very easily be able to find students who will be interested in pursuing this.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
May I add? This is actually kind of a long-term project that we've had working with Heartland. And so we have the director of Heartland support on this and has worked with Melanie Hammond and other districts to see what kinds of pathways are out there to help make a more robust, basically, pathway for both education but also employment.
Anything else for me?
Any other thoughts or questions? This is on our discussion agenda, but we could move to our action agenda if anyone felt boldly enough to do that.
Mr. President, I will make one other point. So if and when the board decides to approve it, the change would also change policy for us with graduation standards, but we would not ask the board to approve that policy change until we do our renewals from our KSB recommendations that typically happen. They come to us in December and then would happen again in January for approval.
Okay.
So we wouldn't change that policy until that time.
Anybody?
I'm good with it. Mr. President, we move forward with the course proposals as presented this evening.
Is there a second? Bonnie seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you so much. Also on our discussion agenda, item 8B, KSB Delegate Assembly with Mr. Ethope.
Yeah, so the board received a fairly long document, so we certainly don't need to go through all of that this evening, but basically you're giving Ms. Dana her marching orders if she, as our delegate, to go and support what KSB is proposing from their state views, federal views, constitutional changes or policy changes for that organization, and then potentially a recommendation for the president-elect that is coming up. So this year is a little unusual. We had 2 actual candidates for the president-elect. Typically that has been somebody that's running unopposed. So the board would need to read those bios. If you have a strong feeling one way or another on who you would like to recommend. Both of the candidates seem very experienced board members, both interesting pathways and being a public servant. One has a military background and the other over 20 years of boardsmanship in the Manhattan-Ogden School District. So I can certainly open it up for discussion around these particular topics if you want more information, but I think the documents you have are pretty well spelled out. Questions that I might answer?
I guess my question is, we just have to approve this packet? Does it have something about the, I'm going to admit that I haven't read every word. Does it have candidates in it?
Yeah. I don't know if it does in there, but it's on our computer.
Oh, it does on the computer?
Yeah.
Okay,
So you should have bios for each one of those candidates.
all right.
So we need to decide that.
You don't have to. We can do it next time if you want time to read and process. But she'll have to be prepared when we go to convention to take that vote.
Can we vote for the one thing and then do the candidates next month, or we need to do the whole thing?
I like that idea.
It's up to the board. I think you could sort those things off if you wanted to, but you also could just wait and make a recommendation next time.
I'm not sure that we've ever really talked about it up here. You've all just kind of given me your input and thought. And like I said, we haven't always had 2 candidates. So if you just want to talk to me or email me, let me know where we're at. And then if there's a big difference in opinions, maybe I could get back with y'all.
Would that be a?
Yeah.
Individually? Still.
Yeah, individually.
Sorry to jump in, just make sure that you're not having a reply all situation on your emails. Thank you.
Okay, so you mean if we're all talking to her about the same thing and she's making, it's still okay?
No.
It's not okay?
No, you would just want to, if you individually want to share your thoughts with her, then you do that yourself. Do not then go back and share that information with the rest of the group.
We have empowered her as a delegate to act on our behalf, and we can
Correct.
get her our thoughts and opinions on the individual pieces individually. And then it's
So
up
why
to
don't
her
we just
to.
clean up our process here a little bit? Why don't we bring this back next month?
That sounds great.
It'll give you an opportunity to read through all of these, again, fairly lengthy, but you can read through their proposals. This is a draft proposal for them. Read through those. Any questions that you have, send my way, and then I can answer questions more in depth. And then we'll come back and we'll ask for a vote and a nomination of a particular candidate for her to take action on when she goes to convention. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, that will avoid any of those meeting violations.
But don't worry, her phone's on airplane mode, so it's all good.
You can't text her right now.
I served on the committee that drafted these documents. They then went through a process of meetings in all 15 KASB zones. So across the state, 16 meetings were held to hear feedback from area board members and district staff, and legislators were also invited to those meetings. That information from those meetings was distilled down again, and then we met as a committee last week to take any of those suggestions into account to bring the drafts that we have before us to all school districts across the state of Kansas. So,
Thank you for doing that.
that's, yeah. We will meet once more again prior to KSB conference, just with any other things that you all have as comments. So anything that as you're looking through those, get them to Heath or Deborah, and they can get filtered to the KSB staff as appropriate for us to review. So I do think, since this wasn't sent out prior, I would like to read, just for those in the room and the public's benefit as well, the key priorities. This didn't come from the committee. We left this very open-ended as we went out for those meetings across the state and got feedback from however many school districts there are, as what legislative priorities our member districts thought were important as we went into the 2026 legislative season. So key priorities on our district's minds were fully funding special education services to meet the needs of all students, support schools in recruiting and retaining teachers and education support staff by strengthening CAPERS and eliminating post-work retirement penalties, sustain Kansas's investment in public education by renewing and refreshing the current school finance formula, preserving its constitutional foundation while adapting it to meet the evolving needs of Kansas public school students, protect and respect local control by empowering elected school boards to lead without curricular or restrictive funding mandates, freeing districts from these constraints allow public schools to focus on teaching and learning, not bureaucracy. And then finally, ensuring tax dollars for education are directed exclusively to public schools that are accountable to students, parents, and their communities. So those items, I think, very quickly rose to the top of what we were hearing from communities. And as we've had discussions with our group here, I think all 5 items we can get behind as a group. So send those comments or concerns on to Heath and Ms. Deborah, and we'll have those for our November meeting.
Yeah, Mr. President, those also mirror essentially their federal guidelines, whether they're supporting or opposing certain topics from the federal aspect as well.
And that looks a little different as well. In the past, the Kansas Association of School Boards has been a member of the National Association of School Boards, and the state association ended its membership this year. And so we in the past have taken more direction from a a federal committee when it comes to federal legislative priorities. And I would anticipate us rewriting those more in a future year. We just didn't have time to get through all of them this year. But this will be the first year that KASB staff and state board members of local school districts from across the state are advocating more directly on our behalf to our senators and representatives in Washington. So. Any other comments, questions there? Hearing none. Moving on to item 9, school board reports and upcoming dates of importance. First there, November 14th through 16th, KASB Annual Convention in Wichita. Just around the corner. It's hard to believe it's October. We'll let you start, Deanna, with the school board report.
Okay. I delivered a You Make a Difference to Nevada Hollis at Lakewood Middle School, and if you're listening, I hope your surgery went well and you're back with us soon. She's new, but it seems like she's making a good impact at Lakewood Middle School. Parks and Rec, we discussed the Boys and Girls Club development. We discussed the Jerry Ivy Park. They're getting bids, making some movement in that. I think they restructured their bids, and so they're making movement. And the sand volleyball court should now be complete at South. Or by South, I should say.
I delivered a You Make a Difference award to the math coach at Sunset School, Shelby Davis. That was fun. I attended 2 Smoky Hill Education Service Center meetings because the September meeting had to be held late to get a quorum, and they are adjusting to new staff members, picking up where longtime staff members left off. I got to meet with some students at South High who were interested in becoming lawyers and gave them ideas of what lawyers do, what I do, what other lawyers do. That was part of Melanie Hammond's Career and Tech Ed program. Thank you.
Good evening. I attended the superintendent small group meetings we had on the 11th of September, and then on the 9th, just last week, I attended the Salina Boys and Girls Club Establishment Public Forum, and there was a discussion of the launch of this club in Salina, steps towards establishing the facility and the community to operate from. The current operations being conducted at Oakdale School until the facility location is secured. And the current location that the Boys and Girls Club of Salina is looking to obtain is at the south end of Sunset Park in what's considered Bondi Park. And that would eliminate the existing 3 ball fields in lieu of the 13,000 square foot facility that they're going to have there. So that's the intentions right now, and waiting for the rest of the deliberations to go on through the City Commission.
I did a You Make a Difference to Connie at Central High. She's doing a great job there. I've been attending some of the sporting events as I always do, and I want to give a special shout out to Lakewood Middle School. They have the best popcorn for the money in all of the schools that we have. So congratulations to Lakewood. You guys are doing a great job. People, if you want some good popcorn, Lakewood Middle School is the place to go.
Mr. Gardner, is that based on extensive research from all of our...
Very extensive research.
We appreciate that you're sacrificing for all of us.
It is great, and it's well worth the money.
Well, I attended the first Policy Council meeting at Heartland, and they are with Shannon, and they have Head Start as 100% enrollment, which is good. Handed out 2 You Make a Difference awards to Alicia and Jeremiah at South. Went to see you at the poll, where the FCA students gathered and prayed, and the scripture was, "Be anxious for nothing, but in prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let all your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus." And then they prayed for the protection of the schools and the students, and for teachers and things. And their sponsor, it was Dalton Peters. And then we spent a little bit of time talking about his mother and how wonderful she was. So, that was fun. And then I went to the Salina Ed Foundation breakfast. Yeah. And I think that was it.
Thank you. I too attended the Salina Education Foundation breakfast. Great update and celebration of 20 years. Does anyone remember? 20 years of the Loan Initiative for Future Teachers LIFT Scholarship Awards, so forgivable loan awards. And also attended a CKCIE Board of Control meeting where we discussed funding uncertainties at the state and federal level, none of which I think have been resolved in the last 30 days, so I assume it will be a similar conversation at our meeting on Friday. You should have seen an email today from KASB encouraging our action to contact our federal representatives and senators, encouraging consistency and certainty as it relates to special education funding and actions taken at the end of last week with special education staff at the Federal Department of Education. So I would encourage you to read that and take action as you see fit. All right, on to Superintendent's report. Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll start off with a shout out. Information for the board is just yesterday I received notification from our Commissioner of Education, Dr. Randy Watson, about our Kansas CAN Star Recognition Program. And so Salina USD 305 has been recognized for 3 Star Awards this year. Social Emotional Growth, we received a Bronze Award. Individual Plan of Study, we received a Bronze Award. And for our Civic Engagement, we received a Copper Award. So super proud of the work that goes into that. That's not an easy process. I'll just give kind of highlight view of each one of those for our audience, certainly, and for the board. Our individual plan of study, it recognizes school districts that offer quality, inclusive opportunities for each student to experience connected learning, which develops academic knowledge as well as technical and employability skills. So this is something that in education we have continued to get better on, is sometimes not just showing kids what opportunities there are, but sometimes opportunities that they don't necessarily want to choose in terms of pathways. An example might be that somebody wants to go into the medical field. They might do an internship at a hospital or get into the CNA program and realize that they don't like the sight of blood. And so you're getting into those things early so that you can make some choices as you enter in the workforce and or college, depending on what that student's needs are. Social emotional growth, it's when districts have a coherent, rigorous, and sustained commitment to really focus on student outcomes. This particular award is focused on a systemic approach versus individuality, where it creates the equitable conditions necessary for students to achieve in a safe, positive, and healthy school climate. Again, something I think that we continue to grow in, I'll say statewide, but certainly locally. The board's actions and really focusing on students belonging in our system is important and fits right in with the work and recognition that we've received from the state. Civic engagement was our last area, and it recognizes districts for incorporating student participation in civic life and public service. I think that's just many of the shout outs that you see Miss Olivia putting out through social media, just recognizing what our kids are doing and the opportunities they have to be involved in our community. We certainly want to do that. I'm so proud of the fact that the many people that I meet in our school district that are maybe from here, born, raised here, high school graduates, go off to college and then come back. I think that says a lot about our community and our civic engagement and the importance of giving back in many cases. Schools demonstrate activities that promote the quality of life in their communities, solve public problems, and help students develop skills of successful civic participation. So that gives you kind of a high-level view of what each one of those things are, and those 3 particular areas are through application, if I'm not mistaken. So it does take some work. It's not just a quantitative decision from the State's Department. Other things for me, another busy month. I, too, got an opportunity to recognize staff. Ms. Opat and I got to go recognize our award winners for Horizon. This is really focused on first-year teachers. They've completed their first year, moving into their second. Grace Boffman and Gavin Blem. He's a band instructor. Grace is a pre-K teacher. Both great celebrations. We do it also unexpectedly. They have no idea. There's an application process from a person who's recommending them. So when we walk in the room with 5, 6, 7, 8 people, they have no idea why we're there. So it's really great, very uplifting. Along the same lines, we got to do Teacher of the Year presentations. Miss Erica Kane, special education teacher at South High, and Janelle Stetler, special education teacher at Coronado. Again, both of these recipients, just so humble. As we were walking in to present to them, they actually thought it was for somebody else. They thought we were there to give an award for another adult in the room. And so it just, again, kind of warms your heart to be able to recognize them. I got to host a group I've been involved in for about a year and a half. It's called the Dirty Dozen. It's kind of a think tank group with other superintendents from across the state. And we're developing an idea to just send positive messaging from across the state and finding a portal or a mechanism that we might use so that it goes out beyond our local story that we often send out, but how do we get that out to lots of other communities? So that was fun to be able to bang off ideas around that. We've had some visible learning opportunities, both for leadership at the elementary and secondary level, and also some PD to go along with that. Over our last in-service days, I attended Board of Controls. We hosted a letters training. Mrs. Collins, really with creativity, if you will, being innovative, is the state now is doing letters training, as you're all aware of. Everybody needs to do that by July of 2028 to have their license renewed. But you also need to have a sustainable package that you can do for new staff. So we're state's really pushing this, and everybody's kind of doing it at once. But what do you do for the teachers who come later? And so her and another gentleman, I won't remember his name, from Newton, I think, they got together and decided, hey, let's host this for lots of districts. And so we were just centrally located, but it was her action that brought these people together, and essentially it's a train the trainer models. And so we hosted that for 3 or 4 days here in our school district, which is always great to highlight, not only this room, but us as a district. Got to participate in an aspiring superintendent's panel in 2 different locations. KSB was doing it, and then I sat in on a class for people that were pursuing district level licensure at Newman University and kind of shared some experiences with them. We've had a meeting with NEA, Salina Leadership. I was able to tour the new technical college at Salina Area Technical College, the new addition with Dr. Nichols. I was out of town when they did the ribbon cutting, so I went and got my one-on-one tour with him. A really, really great building, and it's opened up a lot of opportunities for them there as well. Mrs. Peters and I are starting our big tour of site council meetings, and we've done 3 or 4, I think, at this point, and we'll continue to do those going around, and that's been a great opportunity for me to get to introduce myself a little bit through the community and highlight some both strengths and challenges that we're facing in our district, so that's been great. Dr. Rector and I and 3 administrators went to Topeka and attended a Safe Schools workshop. It really was, the focus of it was on school threats, both individually from an individual's perspective, but also it could be globally in terms of a building. And really, you couldn't ask for a better workshop in that particular case. We had KBI, we had FBI, we had Secret Service, we had Homeland, we had representatives from the State Department, and so all of them were part of our instruction throughout that day. So I definitely think we had experts in the room. It was really fascinating. So we'll continue to work in those areas and strengthen some of our crisis plans a little bit based on the information that we gathered. The Teacher Leadership Academy, I got to meet with Dr. Augustine Shaw. She is an associate professor with Kansas State University. Her and Dr. Rector have done this for a number of cycles, if you will, with this Leadership Academy, and we'll continue to do that. But I've had some work with Dr. Donna in my education in years past, so it was great to touch base with her. And then most recently, I got to attend the Kansas-Missouri Superintendent Leadership Forum. This is probably one of the best PDs that I get to participate in from the superintendent's perspective. It's really all about us. Sounds a little self-serving, but it's super dynamic. There's 125 superintendents from both total, divided by both states, us and Missouri, and we have national speakers come in, and we essentially get to set the agenda in advance and learn about particular topics. So thank you for the opportunity to get to go to do that. That's it, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, we have a few executive sessions to complete tonight. First for personnel. The motion is in your packet.
Hello.
15 minutes for the first one.
Okay.
Okay. need a break, or should we just go?
Let's just go.
I move that I move that the Board of Education go into executive session at 6:15 for 15 minutes for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel. Because if this matter were discussed in an open session, it might invade the privacy of those discussed, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 6:30 in the SEC room.
How about 6:17 and 6:32?
6:17 and 6:32, that's all right with me.
Perfect. Scott seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. We are recessing into executive session. We'll be back in this room at 6:32.
Two.
and we do need more time. There's a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education go back into executive session at 6:35 for 5 minutes for the purpose of discussing the evaluation of non-elected personnel. Because of this matter were discussed in open session, it might invade the privacy of those discussed, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 6:40 in the SEC room.
Paul seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. We'll be back here at 6:40. We are back in open session and have no action to take as a result of that executive session, but do have another for personnel.
I think we need to start at 6:46.
Okay.
I move that the Board of Education go into executive session at 6:46 for 20 minutes for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel and their contractual obligations, because if this matter were discussed in open session, it might invade the privacy of those discussed, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 7:06 in the SEC room.
Second. Paul seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. We'll be back in here at 7:06. We are back in open session and do have action to take as a result of that executive session. Motion.
Mr. President, I move that the board accept Resolution 0525 stating its intent to terminate non-probationary teacher Amanda Freeman's contract for the 2025-2026 school year, and that the clerk of the Board of Education be authorized to issue her written notice informing her of the board's intent and her right to a hearing.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Paul, seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. And on to the last executive session on our agenda for attorney-client. There is a motion there. We'll do that for 25 minutes, starting at 7:11.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education go into executive session at 7:11 for 25 minutes for the purpose of consultation with board legal counsel on matters which are privileged in the attorney-client relationship, which, if discussed in open session, would waive that privilege, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 7:36 in the SEC room.
Is there a second? Jana seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. We'll be back in open session here in this room at 7:36. We are back in open session and do have action to take as a result of that executive session. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we accept the settlement agreement and release of litigation regarding special education services for a student.
Thank you. Bonnie seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. That is the end of our meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Bonnie
We
moves.
adjourn.
Dot seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you in November.